My business partner told our investors I built this company alone. He just showed up for meetings. They believed him. I didn't argue. I just walked out and called my lawyer. By morning, he learned who actually owned the patents. The conference room smelled like expensive coffee and ambition. 23 investors. I counted them while Marcus was setting up his laptop, connecting it to the projector with that casual confidence he'd perfected over 3 years of partnership. 23 people representing approximately $12 million in Series B funding. The kind of money that would take our company from promising startup to legitimate player. Our company. Except Marcus kept saying my company in his prep emails. I told myself it was just nerves. Just Marcus being Marcus. A little too focused on himself, but ultimately harmless. We were partners. 50-50 split. Equal ownership. We'd signed the documents in his lawyer's office 30 months ago. Shaken hands. Talked about building something that mattered. The presentation began at 10:07 a.m. Marcus clicked to the first slide. Our logo. The one I'd designed at 2 a.m. in my garage, tweaking pixels until it felt right. Tech Vault. Clean, modern, professional. Good morning, Marcus said, flashing that smile. The one that had convinced me to partner with him in the first place. Warm, trustworthy. Thank you all for being here. I'm Marcus Chen, founder and CEO of Tech Vault. Founder, singular. My stomach twisted slightly, but I pushed it down. Semantics. He probably just meant to say co-founder and forgot. Marcus clicked to the next slide. My slide. The one showing our proprietary encryption algorithm, the breakthrough that made everything else possible. 3 years of research, 18 months of development, countless nights in my garage, coding until my eyes burned and my hands cramped. This is what makes Tech Vault special, Marcus said. Military-grade encryption that's actually user-friendly. I spent 2 years developing this algorithm. Most encryption is either secure or accessible, never both. I solved that problem. Not we. My hands went cold. The technical architecture is complex, Marcus continued, clicking through slides I'd created, explaining concepts I'd discovered. But the core innovation is elegant. See this pathway here? That's what makes simultaneous security and speed possible. Took me 18 months to figure that out. An investor raised her hand. Diane Fitzgerald, managing partner at Crestview Capital. I'd met her twice before. She'd asked good questions, technical questions, the kind that showed she actually understood technology instead of just throwing money at buzzwords. Marcus, this is impressive work, she said. And your partner, David? She looked at me. What's your role here? Marcus smiled. That easy, charismatic smile that made people want to trust him. David's great for moral support, he said. Shows up to meetings, gives feedback on presentations, but let's be honest. He gestured at the screen, at my algorithm, at my architecture, at my 3 years of work. I built this company. Alone. The room nodded. Several investors looked at me with something that might have been pity. Poor David. The friend who got carried along. The dead weight. I sat there, fingers tapping against the conference table. My nervous habit. The one that drove Marcus crazy, waiting for him to correct himself, to laugh and say he was kidding, to acknowledge that I'd built every single line of code currently running on our servers. He didn't. He kept talking. Another investor leaned forward. Thomas Wu, venture capitalist, Stanford MBA, 20 years of experience written across his expensive suit. So we're really investing in Marcus's vision and execution? His technical expertise? Exactly, Marcus said. He was standing taller now, feeding off their attention. David's a nice guy, reliable, but this company exists because of me. The late nights, the sacrifice, the innovation, all me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out under the table. A text from Sarah, Marcus's executive assistant, the one he'd hired 6 months ago. I'm so sorry. He told me to book this meeting without telling you the agenda. I thought you knew. So this was planned. This wasn't a mistake or nerves or Marcus getting caught up in the moment. This was deliberate. Marcus advanced to the next slide. The one about our growth trajectory, our user acquisition, our revenue projections, all built on technology I'd created. Moving forward, he said, I think it makes sense to restructure ownership. Bring in someone with actual technical expertise to replace David in an operational role. Someone who can contribute at the level the company needs. David can stay on in an advisory capacity if he wants. Equity adjustment to reflect actual contributions. Advisory capacity. Equity adjustment in the company I'd founded with the technology I'd invented. One investor, I didn't catch his name, actually laughed. Makes sense. No offense, David, but you can't expect equal ownership when you're not doing equal work. The room murmured agreement. I stood up. 23 pairs of eyes turned to me. I grabbed my laptop, my notebook, my bag. Where are you going? Marcus asked. His smile faltered, just slightly, a crack in the performance. Home, I said. My voice was calm, eerily calm. You clearly don't need me here. David, come on. He moved toward me, hand extended like he was calming a spooked horse. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. You just told 23 investors that I show up to meetings and provide moral support, that I don't do equal work, so I'm leaving. Good luck with your pitch. David, I walked out. The conference room door closed behind me with a soft click. The hallway was silent. My hands were shaking. I'd met Marcus 3.5 years ago at a startup networking event in San Francisco. I'd been working alone for 6 months at that point, developing the encryption algorithm in my garage in Palo Alto. I had the technical skills, skills. Stanford CS degree, 8 years as a senior engineer at various tech companies. But I had no business experience, no connections, no idea how to turn my breakthrough into an actual company. Marcus had the opposite problem. MBA from Wharton, 5 years in venture capital, a network that included half the investors in Silicon Valley, but no technical product. He'd been looking for something to build a company around. We talked for 2 hours at that networking event. He'd understood immediately what made my encryption algorithm special. This could be huge, he'd said. Military contracts, enterprise clients, maybe even consumer applications. But you need help bringing it to market. He'd been right. I couldn't do it alone. I was a coder, not a businessman. I needed someone who could pitch to investors, negotiate deals, build partnerships. We'd formed the company a month later, 50-50 split, equal partners. Marcus would handle business and fundraising. I'd handle technology and product development. It had worked beautifully for 3 years, or so I'd thought. Now, sitting in my car in the parking garage beneath Marcus's rented office space, I was replaying every conversation we'd ever had, every meeting, every decision, looking for the moment when we became I in his mind, when partner became liability, when creator became moral support. My phone rang. Janet Morrison, my lawyer, the one I'd retained when we first formed the company, back when I'd been smart enough to protect myself legally, even though I'd trusted Marcus personally. Janet, I said, I need you to draft a cease and desist. Tonight. David? Her voice was sharp, alert. What happened? Marcus just told a room full of investors that he built the company alone, that I just show up to meetings, that I don't do equal work. He's planning to restructure ownership and push me into an advisory role. Silence on the other end. Then, David, remind me, whose name is on the patents? Mine. All 7 of them. I filed individually before we even formed the company. You told me to do that, remember? I remember very clearly. And the core algorithm, the encryption architecture, I wrote every single line, alone, in my garage, 6 months before Marcus even knew it existed. What about the IP licensing agreement? I closed my eyes, remembering. The company licenses all the patents from me personally. Marcus's lawyer suggested that structure to save on corporate taxes. He said it would be more efficient. I could hear Janet smile through the phone. Oh, he's fucked. How fast can you move? Papers drafted in 2 hours, filed by morning. David, do you want to do this? Once we send that cease and desist, there's no going back. The company won't be able to use any of your patents. All product development stops. All sales stop. Everything stops. He called me moral support, I said quietly, in front of 23 investors. He planned this. He was going to take everything I built and push me out. Then let's make sure he understands exactly what he's losing. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd sketched the first encryption pathway on a napkin 4 years ago, reviewing every document from our partnership, every email, every text message, every Slack conversation, looking for evidence, building my case. There were hundreds of messages where Marcus acknowledged my work, where he thanked me for solving technical problems, where he explicitly stated that I'd created the core technology. Marcus, 2/14/2022, 11:43 p.m. Dude, you're a genius. That optimization you coded just cut processing time by 60%. We're going to kill it with this. Marcus, 7/3/2022, 8:17 a.m. Investors loved the demo. Your algorithm is what's making this company valuable. Thank you for building something so incredible. Marcus, 11/29/2022, 3:22 p.m. David's encryption architecture is the foundation of everything we're doing. Without his innovation, we'd just be another security company. That last one was from an email to potential investors 7 months ago, when it was convenient to acknowledge my contributions, before he'd decided I was expendable. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. He called again at 6:03, 6:07, 6:12, 6:15, 16 times in 90 minutes. I didn't answer any of them. At 7:42 a.m., Janet texted, cease and desist delivered to Marcus Chen and TechVault Inc. As of 8 a.m. today, the company no longer has rights to use any of your patented technology. All products must be pulled from sale immediately. All development must cease. Violation will result in immediate legal action. At 8:03 a.m., my phone exploded. Marcus calling, the investors calling, our staff calling. Sarah, Marcus's assistant, texting, what's happening? Marcus is losing his mind. The lawyers are here. Everyone's panicking. I turned my phone face down on the table and made coffee. Let it ring. At 9:17 a.m., Marcus called for the 23rd time. I answered. What the hell did you do? He was screaming. Actually screaming. I'd never heard him raise his voice in 3 years. You can't pull the patents. You'll destroy the company. Your company, I said calmly. The one you built alone. Remember? David, I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. You said it in front of 23 investors. You planned the whole thing. You were going to restructure ownership and push me out. Sarah told me you deliberately didn't tell me the meeting agenda. Silence. The kind of silence that confirms everything. I want to renegotiate, he said finally. His voice was different now, smaller, desperate. We can fix this. No, David, please. The investors are furious. If we can't ship product, if we can't develop new features, the deal is dead. The company is dead. Sounds like a you problem. I'm your partner. No, I said. You said I just show up to meetings. You said I provide moral support. Partners don't say that. Partners don't plan to restructure each other out of their your own company. What do you want? His voice cracked. More equity? Voting control? My resignation? Name it. Anything. Just give us back the patent license. I took a sip of coffee. It was good coffee. Ethiopian blend. I'd bought it with revenue from the company, from products built on my technology. I want you to call every single one of those investors, I said, and tell them the truth. Done. I'll do it right now. I'll send emails, not emails, a conference call. Today, with all 23 investors, and me on the line, listening. Fine. Yes. Anything. You're going to tell them that you lied yesterday, that I created the core technology, that I wrote every line of code, that I own all the patents, that without me, there is no tech vault. I'll do it. I swear. And then, I continued, I want you to resign as CEO, give up your shares, sign a document admitting you deliberately misrepresented contributions to attempt to defraud me out of my ownership stake. And then, you walk away from the company I built. The silence stretched so long, I thought he'd hung up. That's insane, he finally whispered. I'll be ruined. My reputation, my career, everything. You tried to ruin me first, I said. The difference is, I actually built something worth ruining. I'll fight you in court. Go ahead. I set down my coffee mug. I have 7 patents in my name. I have the original code repository showing every commit was made by me. I have hundreds of emails and messages where you acknowledged I created the technology. I have 23 witnesses from yesterday who heard you call me useless. You'll lose, Marcus, and it'll cost you everything you have left. His breathing was ragged. You're destroying everything we built. No, I said. I'm protecting everything I built from someone who tried to steal it. I hung up. The conference call happened at 2 p.m. Janet had drafted the parameters. All 23 investors. Marcus, me, Janet. Marcus's lawyer, a guy named Brad something who sounded like he wanted to be anywhere else. Marcus's voice shook as he spoke. I'd never heard him sound weak before, uncertain. It was almost satisfying. Almost. I need to clarify some statements I made yesterday, he began. About the technology, about contributions, about who built TechVault. Silence on the line. 23 investors listening. The core encryption algorithm, the patented technology that makes our product possible, was created entirely by David Reeves, not me. David invented it, developed it, and filed the patents before we even formed the company. He paused, swallowed audibly. I misrepresented his contributions yesterday. I implied that I built the technology alone. That's not true. David built it. I provided business expertise and connections, but the actual innovation, the actual product, the actual value, that's all David. Diane Fitzgerald cut in. So yesterday was a lie? Yes, Marcus said quietly. Why would you lie about something like that? Thomas Wu's voice was ice. We're about to invest $12 million. We need accurate information about who actually creates value in this company. Silence. Because he was planning to force me out, I said, my first words on the call. He was going to restructure ownership to reduce my equity and bring in someone else. But there's a problem with that plan. I could feel them listening. The patents are in my name. The IP licensing agreement gives TechVault permission to use my technology, but that permission can be revoked. As of this morning, it was revoked. The company currently has no legal right to use the encryption algorithm that makes the product work. The line exploded. Multiple people trying to talk at once. Legal liability, due diligence disaster, completely misrepresented. Brad, Marcus's lawyer, tried to regain control. Ladies and gentlemen, we can resolve this. David is obviously upset, but we can renegotiate the licensing terms. No, I said. We can't. Because Marcus just admitted on a recorded line that he deliberately misrepresented contributions to investors. That's fraud, and I'm not renegotiating anything with someone who committed fraud. David, Diane said carefully, what would it take for you to restore the license? Marcus's resignation, full equity surrender, a signed confession, and a public statement to the press about what happened. You can't be serious, Brad said. I'm completely serious. Those are my terms. Thomas Wu spoke up. Marcus, is what David is saying true? Were you planning to restructure him out? Silence. Answer the question, Diane said. I thought, Marcus's voice was barely audible. I thought it would be better for the company if I had more control, if we brought in someone with deeper technical expertise. I wasn't trying to steal anything. You just wanted to take the company I built, I said, using technology I invented, and push me into an advisory role so you could take credit for my work. This call is over, Brad said abruptly. Marcus, don't say anything else. The damage is done, Janet said. We have everything on record. 23 witnesses, Marcus's admission of misrepresentation, David's clear ownership of the underlying IP. If TechVault wants to continue operating, it needs David's cooperation, and David's terms are non-negotiable. The call descended into chaos. Investors demanding emergency board meetings, Brad trying to threaten legal action, Marcus saying nothing, and me, sitting in my kitchen, listening to the company I'd built tear itself apart because the person I'd trusted decided I was expendable. Marcus resigned 3 days later, signed everything. The admission of fraud, the equity surrender, the public statement. He didn't have a choice. Without the patent license, TechVault couldn't operate. The investors had made it clear. Either Marcus left and I stayed, or they pulled their funding and sued everyone involved for fraud. Marcus chose survival. Barely. The press release went out on a Friday afternoon. Marcus Chen has resigned from TechVault. Vault to pursue other opportunities. David Reeves, creator of the company's core technology and holder of all related patents, will assume the role of CEO. Other opportunities. That's what we called it when someone gets caught trying to steal their partner's company. The tech blogs picked up the story within hours, not the sanitized press release version, the real story. Someone leaked it. Maybe one of the investors. Maybe Sarah, Marcus's assistant, who'd been horrified by what he'd done. Tech Vault co-founder attempted to push out partner who owns all patents, read one headline. CEO resigns after admitting fraud to investors, read another. Marcus's reputation was destroyed in 48 hours. The venture capital community is small. Word travels fast. By Monday, he was unemployable. I should have felt satisfied, vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. 6 months later, I was sitting in the same conference room where Marcus had tried to erase me. Different investors this time. The Series B round had fallen apart after the Marcus situation. Too much drama, too much uncertainty, but we'd recovered, rebuilt trust, brought in new board members, hired a real executive team, and now we were closing a Series C round, $20 million, led by Diane Fitzgerald at Crestview Capital. I have one question, Diane said as we wrapped up the final details. Why didn't you stop him earlier? Marcus was clearly taking credit for your work for months, maybe years. Why let it get to that point? I thought about it. Because I trusted him, I said finally. I believed we were building something together. That partnership meant something. I thought if I just kept my head down and kept building, the work would speak for itself. But it didn't. No, he was rewriting the narrative, making himself the genius founder, making me the expendable friend who'd been carried along, and I didn't see it until he tried to make it official. Diane nodded slowly. What did you learn? That intellectual property is the only thing that matters, I said. Marcus had the connections, the charisma, the business skills, but I had the patents. That's what saved me. Smart, she said. Keeping the patents in your name before forming the company. A lot of founders don't think that far ahead. My lawyer insisted, I said. At the time, I thought it was paranoid, unnecessary. Marcus and I were partners. We trusted each other. But you listened to your lawyer anyway. Yeah, I listened. Because 3.5 years ago, when I'd been excited about partnership and building something meaningful and changing the world, Janet had sat across from me in her office and said very clearly, David, I hope Marcus is trustworthy. I really do. But hope isn't a legal strategy. File the patents in your name, just in case. Just in case your partner tries to steal everything you've built. Just in case we becomes I in his mind. Just in case you need to walk out of a meeting and make a phone call that destroys his career and saves yours. I saw Marcus once after he resigned, 3 months later. Coffee shop in Palo Alto. I was there to meet with a potential hire. He was there alone, laptop open, looking smaller somehow, diminished. Our eyes met across the room. He stood, walked over. David, he said. Marcus, can I? He gestured at the empty chair at my table. Just for a minute? I should have said no, but I nodded. He sat. I'm sorry, he said, for what I did, how I did it, all of it. Okay. I convinced myself it was justified, that I was the one making the company successful, that you were just the technical guy and I was building the business. I lost sight of who actually created the value. You tried to steal my company, Marcus. I know. He stared at his hands. I've been in therapy, trying to figure out why I did it. My therapist says it's ego, that I couldn't handle not being the genius, that I needed to be the one who built something from scratch. Did you tell your therapist you tried to commit fraud against your business partner? He flinched. Yes. What did they say? That I destroyed the best partnership I'd ever have because I couldn't share credit. We sat in silence. I'm working at a consulting firm now, Marcus said. Junior level. Starting over. No one in VC will touch me. Every tech company in the valley knows what I did. What did you expect? I don't know. I guess I thought. He trailed off. It doesn't matter what I thought. I was wrong. You built something incredible, and I tried to take it because I was insecure and arrogant and stupid. Yes, I said. You were. He stood. I hope Tech Vault succeeds. I really do. You deserve it. He walked away. I watched him leave. This person I'd trusted, who I'd built a company with, who'd tried to erase me and steal 3 years of my work, and I felt something unexpected. Not anger, not satisfaction, just nothing. He'd already lost everything. His reputation, his career, his future in the industry he'd spent a decade building connections in. I didn't need to punish him further. The truth had done it for me. Tech Vault is worth $340 million now. We closed the Series C with Crestview Capital, hired an incredible team, landed contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies and the Department of Defense. The encryption algorithm I developed in my garage, the one Marcus tried to claim he'd built alone, is now protecting data for millions of users. I'm the CEO, sole founder on all the press materials, 100% of the equity, minus what I've granted to employees and what the investors own. Last week, someone asked me in an interview what I'd learned from the Marcus situation. I thought about it carefully. I learned that you can't assume good intentions, I said. Even with people you trust, you have to protect yourself legally, document everything, and most importantly, never give up control of your intellectual property. The interviewer pressed, do you regret partnering with Marcus? No, I said. He taught me something valuable. He taught me that the person who owns the patents owns the company. Everything else, the charisma, the connections, the business skills, that's all replaceable. But if you create something genuinely innovative and and you protect it legally, no one can take it from you. Not even your business partner, especially not your business partner. Because Marcus had been right about one thing. I did just show up to meetings. I showed up to meetings that discussed technology I'd invented, products I'd architected, patents I'd filed, innovations that existed because I'd spent 18 months in my garage, coding until my eyes burned, solving problems that Marcus couldn't begin to understand. He'd thought he was the irreplaceable one, the visionary, the founder who mattered, and maybe in a different world where I hadn't listened to my lawyer, where I'd filed the patents under the company name instead of my own, where I'd trusted instead of verified, maybe in that world he would have been right, but not in this one. In this world, the partner who tried to restructure me into an advisory role learned a fundamental lesson about how technology companies actually work. You can replace a CEO, you can replace a business development person, you can replace the charisma and the connections and the ability to pitch investors, but you can't replace the person who owns the patents. You can't replace the engineer who built the algorithm that makes your entire company valuable. You can't replace the founder who shows up to meetings about technology only he understands. And when that founder walks out of your conference room and calls his lawyer, when he revokes the license that lets you use his intellectual property, when he forces you to admit in front of 23 investors that you lied about building the company alone, that's when you learn the difference between being charismatic and being irreplaceable. Marcus learned that difference at 8:03 a.m. on a Tuesday morning when his phone exploded with panicked calls and he realized that "I built this company alone" becomes "I destroyed this company alone" the moment the actual builder takes his patents and walks away. I built TechVault, not Marcus. And when he tried to take credit, tried to erase me, tried to restructure ownership, I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I didn't defend myself in that conference room. I just walked out, called my lawyer, and let him learn who actually owned the foundation his career was built on.